This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.
The young shining cuckoo is fed by its foster parents on insects and spiders. But the korimako, or bellbird, has a much more interesting diet of nectar. It's been something of a radio personality and has sung on shortwave radio to Australia and the Pacific nations for 30 years. However, the early recordings failed to reflect the versatility of the bellbird, with its wide variety of liquid notes and artistically placed clicks and bell-like sounds. It's not surprising that Maori mythology describes korimako, the bellbird, as the messenger of Tane, sent to herald the coming of the sun.
Community or chaos? We can construct and nurture community or fall into chaos. Over the next hour, Marvin Hubbard hosts conversations toward creating a fairer, more equal society.
Community or Chaos is made possible with the support of Quakers Aotearoa. You'll find them online at quaker.nz.
Good morning, friends. Today we have Mike Taylor, Secretary of the Dunedin branch of the New Zealand Firefighters Union. And welcome to Community or Chaos, Mike.
Thanks very much, Marvin. Lovely to be here.
Can you tell us why and how you decided to make a career in the fire service, Mike Taylor?
Yeah, I guess it like many things, it was sort of 75% accident and 25% intent. I guess I was trying to find a career that fit, and I'm relatively late in life, and I joined the volunteer fire brigade in Tiana over in on the border of Fiordland there, lovely little town.
That's a lovely town, yes. One of my favorite small towns.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I was very lucky to. So I lived there for about 10 years, and during that time, I was whilst I was managing a bar, I got involved. A friend was involved with the volunteers there and asked me if I fancied getting involved with those folks, and I did. And pretty much straight away, I was trying to figure out a way how I could do this for a living, and I went away on my recruit course, which we did at Dunedin fire station here. And whilst I was sort of interacting loosely with the career fellas up there, I sort of, I guess it was pretty obvious to me that that's what I wanted to do for a career. So, I put my name in the hat and put my best foot forward. It did take me a couple of times, though. My first time wasn't successful. That was pretty difficult to take when you put 100% into something and it doesn't come off. I guess I was just to sort of shake myself off and go again, train again for another year or so before applying a second time, and I got in the second time.
Well, that shows you really wanted to be there. What appeals to you about the job?
Well, I mean, I guess it sounds kind of glib to say it, really, but to be able to do something to contribute to community and make that your career, I'm extremely lucky to be able to do that.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think many of us try to contribute to community in various different ways, and I think quite often that happens at a voluntary capacity. So to be able to do that for my full-time career, I think that was probably the big appeal. I mean, there are, I'm still a little kid at heart. I love playing with trucks and big pieces of machinery and equipment, and flashing lights and sirens. They still get me going, and so all of those things as well. But I think predominantly it's to be able to contribute to the community.
You've been a member of both the volunteer service and the professional service, both. So could you talk about them both? Perhaps the volunteer service first, and how they interact with each other and hopefully complement each other.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, as you know, Tiana is quite... So basically, to put some context behind it, career brigades look after the metro areas and volunteer brigades look after the the smaller towns and the rural areas. So with Tiana being sort of pretty isolated from metro brigades, we didn't very often work alongside career staff. So at that time, I guess I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I didn't really have the awareness of the difference in the brigades. So we were sort of self-sufficient down there for a large part, and worked alongside our other volunteer brigades. I guess, yeah, I guess, but in Dunedin we're sort of surrounded by volunteer brigades, and we work regularly with them. That's a bit of a difference there. But I mean, on the whole, they're expected to do the same thing. I guess the big difference would be obviously not getting paid for it. I mean, that's key. But as a result of that, you have to have a full-time job as well as volunteering for the brigade, and then that therefore limits you to not only how many times you can respond, but how much training you can commit to. So yeah, I guess that's a difference. But at the end of the day, a firefighter from a volunteer brigade and a firefighter from a career brigade is expected to do the same job at any time, potentially.
What's the training available to a volunteer?
So again, I suppose as a consequence of what I've just said, really, for example, a recruit firefighter as a volunteer goes away on a week-long course, as I did. A recruit as a career firefighter, I went away for 3 months. And I guess, I mean, it's going to be difficult to ask a volunteer to take 3 months off work to go and do a full-time course. It's we went to Rotorua to do the course as a career firefighter. I went to Dunedin to do it and as a volunteer, which is obviously a bit more manageable. So there are time constraints on volunteers, which looking back on it, having been part of both types, I suppose it feels pretty unfair that we ask volunteers to do the things that we ask them to do with the training that they're given, I suppose. And I'm not trying to diminish the capabilities of volunteer firefighters. There are some very skilled volleys out there and got an enormous respect for anyone who puts as much time aside as they do, but it is difficult for them to keep up with all of the skills, the relevant skills. So I think the ideal model is to try and have volunteers in an area where, beyond a certain threshold of incident size, career firefighters then come up and support them at their incident. That would be the ideal.
The volunteers in the rural areas, they're the people that probably have to first do bushfires and fires that are not building fires, but bushfires or wildfires.
What was the question? Sorry, Marvin.
Would the volunteers, because of the nature of where they live, be the ones that would be first on the scene of wildfires or bushfires? I
mean, excuse me. Okay, so before 2017, we had two separate branches, really. We had a rural firefighters and we had urban firefighters. In 2017, they attempted to amalgamate all of the different firefighters to one fire service. But I mean, effectively, you've still got, I mean, they call it something different now. They call natural environment and built environment. But I mean, effectively, you've got people that specialize in rural firefighting, and then you've got people that firefighters that specialize in urban. But say, for example, Tiana is still an urban firefighting brigade. Mm-hmm. Blackmount is a little bit south of Tiana. They're a rural brigade, or a natural environment brigade now. So, but I mean, I suppose due to the sort of their location, they're quite often going to be first at more rural style events. But no, it's not a prerequisite. No, they're just different brigades are trained to different levels in the same way that some brigades are trained to deal with rescue, specialist rescue, so car crashes, for example, and some brigades aren't, and that would depend on your location and the proximity to other rescue trucks as well. So,
Well, if you were organizing New Zealand's fire brigades, what would you do? How would you improve the situation for the volunteer brigades? And when they go off to training, do they get paid for that or for the training itself?
they get paid. I think, yeah, look, I'm not sure. I believe they get some sort of wage compensation. You'd probably be better off to speak to a volunteer. It was
Sure.
10 years ago when I was in Marvin, so I don't want to say now how it is. But I mean, it would be minimal if they do.
Anyway.
But they may get some compensation for that. How would I fix it? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think, as we were talking about before, I think the ideal situation is to have a career brigade close enough to all volunteer brigades that should an incident escalate past a certain size, career firefighters then can go and support the volunteers. And by the nature of the fact that we work full time, and when we're not responding, we're training for the most part. The level of expertise generally in career staff can be higher, especially with the specialist skills, so the hazardous material jobs or the technical rescue stuff. So I think the ideal would be to have the career brigades situated in such a way that we can support everyone without there being such a delay in our response time. So in our area here in Otago, Southland, I think we do pretty well in between Invercargill and Dunedin. That's the two career brigades we've got here. But there's probably a bit of a gap up in the Wakatipu, up around Queenstown, Cromwell sort of area there. They're quite a long way from both career brigades up there. So, but that's been talked about forever.
Have emergency response situations changed over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah. Yeah, in a number of ways. I think the prevalence of fire has decreased. So we don't get as many. I mean, you speak to some of the more experienced, shall we say, firefighters, and they can still remember times when we were responding to many more structure fires than we do today. However, one of the big things that's increased for us as careers, and especially for some volunteer brigades, is the medical response that we do now. So Fire and Emergency has a memorandum of understanding to assist St John on varying types of medical incidents. So most brigades do what's called purple response. So we generally go to a lot of heart attacks, fatality, suicides, things like that, where we can perform basic first aid, CPR, that sort of thing, to assist the ambulance. And then a number of the volunteer brigades are also what's called first responders, and they have a higher level of expertise there for medical response. But that, for some brigades, that makes up now a majority of the calls is medical response. So that has changed significantly.
How about
But also, sorry, go on.
How about accidents?
Accidents?
Yeah.
Car accidents, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think with car accidents, so again, so when I was in TNL, we were a rescue truck there. We had a sort of a perfect storm there of high-speed, unusual roads. So the road to Milford was a good example there. Lots of tourists that are unfamiliar with the road, although it wasn't exclusively tourists, of course. A view to look out of the window at instead of looking at the road. And then you could combine that with a lot of old vehicles where some of the backpackers would pick up, cheaper, older vehicles to travel around the country. And so those things combined with the high-speed roads did create quite a lot of accidents that would need us to help them extricate. I think what we're finding now is we still seem to get a lot of accidents uh, where I am here, but the cars are built differently now, so there's generally a lot more of the time, I think we're finding that people are getting themselves out of the vehicle, or the the need for us to help them to get out of the car is lessened. But there's certainly no, I don't think there's any reduction in accidents. I mean, people drive, well, you'll know as well as I do, people drive the way they drive. And as long as they keep driving that way, we'll still keep responding, I think. I think the other change would probably be fire, in that our building stock is changing. And so I think we're going to start seeing and so buildings that instead of just being made out of timber, the fire may, now there's a lot more double glazing where the window may not fail. The type of insulation, the passive buildings and what have you, there's not as much ventilation in there. So potentially firefighters could come up to an underventilated fire, we call it, without getting too technical. But the risk that poses to firefighters is increased. And unfortunately, we're not getting the training to deal with that new type of, that new risk that we may face. Because believe it or not, Marvin, we don't actually receive any ongoing live fire training
Really?
in our job.
That sounds weird for the job you do.
Well, weird is one way of putting it. Yeah. No, I mean,
Sorry,
it's extremely risky. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, it is weird why it's not being prioritized. But it's an extremely dangerous environment, and as the environment changes and firefighting techniques change around the world, I think it's crucial that we get upskilled.
Is this one reason why you're secretary of the Farmers Union?
Is it one of the reasons? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think, there's a lot wrong with our organization, and I think, I guess I've always tried to be somebody that tries to help improve the situation rather than just complain about it. So I try and be a part of the solution. And so I think this to me was a way of doing that.
So why do firemen need unions?
Well, probably for what we've just touched on there, really. I think we're seeing it all around the world. In Australia and the UK, especially, as well as here. We seem to be a type of organisation that governments feel that they can skim the budget, reduce the budget, I should say, at no real cost. The problem is with firefighting is you never really know what you need until you need it. So 99% of the time, you won't need the full suite of the activities that a firefighter or the fire brigade can perform. But when you need it, nothing else will do. And so there's a lot of resilience in the system. And I think that makes it an easy target to reduce budgets on. And we're seeing that all around the world, like I say, especially Aussie and the UK. And we're constantly having to defend the resourcing and the training. And I think, and so I think that's why it's especially that we need the unions to fight collectively, not just for the firefighters, but for the public. We're all paying for this. Go.
I remember about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, the firefighters were going on strike for equipment and conditions. And now you seem to be going on strike once a week for similar reasons.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it's twice a week actually. Yeah, we're on strike at the moment, and that honestly, that is the most difficult thing that any of the firefighters have to go through currently, and that is it's an extremely difficult action to take.
It's like
But I think
healthcare workers feeling they have to go on strike to protect their work. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And again, for the public, I think what the public need to realise, the message we're trying to get across is that the risk is present, whether we're on strike or not. You know, we in Dunedin, I mean, we can talk about Dunedin, but we can talk about the whole country. But in Dunedin, I think at the moment, actually, the ladder truck, the truck that we use to get to high-rise buildings and what have you. At the moment, ours is off for repair, so we're forced to use a truck that's nearly 40 years old, 4 decades old, and we're relying on that to rescue the public. We around the country, we regularly have stations that are closed because they can't staff them. We regularly have trucks that are breaking down. And so whether we're on strike or not, that risk is present. And I guess we end up being on strike because we feel like nobody's listening to us. The government aren't listening to us, and the public are unaware. And so this campaign really is an awareness thing. It's not changing Fenz's mind, I can tell you that. This has been going on. We've been out of contract for 2 years. Now I think we're coming up to 45 strikes this time round, and they're still refusing to negotiate with us. So,
I've heard the Minister of Finance and the Minister of the Economy talk about how we should treat government as a household, and you shouldn't borrow too much money, you shouldn't spend too much money. And I thought about my house. I have an older house. It's about 50 years old, maybe a little longer. It was built after World War II. Well built. But the roof was giving problems. And actually it was leaking pretty bad. And it had been repaired a couple of times. But I was told that it really wasn't repairable anymore. And I knew if I let it go, the whole house would go. If I had an accountant, she or he would say, well, you can't afford to borrow money, so just hang on for a while. But my builder would say, you want to have a house in 10 years' time, you get a new roof, even if you have to borrow. And I think the government's more like that accountant than the builder.
yeah, I think that's fair. I'm certainly not a politician, but I think there's a couple of things in play here. We're going to have to pay. We're going to have to pay for the things that we need. I think unfortunately the incentives for politicians are to keep lowering taxes to make themselves more appealing for re-election, and I think unfortunately that's not necessarily in line with what we need to do for the country. I think we have to pay for this.
It's not in line with reality, that's for sure.
Well, that's right, and I think the incentives are sort of perverse there. They've sort of muddled things a little bit. But also, I think more importantly, and I think this is, I can certainly talk for fire and emergency on this one. I think that it's the way the money's being spent. If we thought that every dollar we put in was treated like the dollar that I spend at the shops, if it was looked after, it doesn't seem to have the same value. A dollar in the hand of our councils or governments doesn't seem to hold the same value as it does when it's in my pocket. And I think so long as we keep seeing these botched projects or wasted money, or maybe some of these projects that are not necessarily shouldn't necessarily be prioritized over some of the more important things. I think we feel like we're not getting value for money, but our rates keep going up and the taxes keep going up, and so I think to your analogy, I think that I don't think it fits exactly.
But we don't have high taxes compared to European countries.
No, sure.
We have low taxes compared to a lot of countries. And
they keep going up, and the service
I remember when I came in the 70s, I didn't hear people complaining about taxes all the time. And the taxes were much higher then, but people didn't complain because they knew the need. And all of a sudden, I think we've become convinced. and probably convinced by the politicians themselves and the media that taxes are bad or taxes are waste. And
well, look, again, I don't see it being a waste if they're used effectively.
I mean, how can you consider having good roads and good schools and good medical care? How is that a waste?
Yeah, but we're not getting that, Marvin. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
but maybe we're not getting. It's like a vicious circle. My sister lived in Boston, and she had a friend who owned a small fish shop, and he was always complaining about paying taxes. And she explained to me, well, he sends his kids to a Catholic school because the schools are rotten. This is Boston, not New Zealand. We don't have rotten schools. And he doesn't feel like he gets proper police protection, or the services just aren't there. And part of the reason the services weren't there is because they weren't paying taxes. But because the services weren't there, people felt, well, why should I pay for this? So I think not paying taxes creates a vicious circle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And as I said at the start of this, I actually think that we're going to be in a position that we need to be paying more taxes, but we're not going to be able to convince people to do that until we can convince them that we're going to spend their money effectively. So we go back to fire and emergency again. 2017, their operating budget was about $350 million a year. Now we're looking at 850, and within a couple of years, it's likely to hit that $1 billion a year mark. Well, it's the same number of firefighters as we had back in the 90s. We've got old fleet and buildings that are falling into disrepair. So where's all the money going? And I think that's reflected across government agencies and within government itself. So I think we've got to do better at that way we spend it. I think we need to make sure that and I'm not into a wealth tax necessarily, but when we see large corporations avoiding paying their fair share, that seems there's a fairness issue, isn't there, with them?
Well, their fair share of they seem to think their fair share is no taxes.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's part of the problem. If people get away with paying no taxes and are proud of it, well, how is that going to affect people's willingness to pay taxes? I mean, ordinary people.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's a fairness thing. But like I say, I'm not a politician, but I think there's got to be more accountability, Marvin. We've got to hold people to account.
Really, well, I like to see governments really govern for the common good.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That would be a nice concept. Yeah.
But if we want change, we really have to hold people accountable.
100%. And then that's another reason that I enjoy my role in the union is to try and hold people to account. I mean, it is like it's like herding cats. I mean, unfortunately, as we've just found out, we're currently coming to the end of a fleet inquiry into fire and emergency New Zealand, which has been great. It's a bipartisan select committee that's been digging into the mismanagement of our fleet, and during that, we've had two of the people have resigned in that time. Two of the people responsible for this have resigned during that time, with other people that have left as well. And I think, yeah, again, it just feels like these people are escaping any kind of accountability. And I don't really know. It doesn't seem to be any skin in the game for a lot of these people,
Guess I think it was a guy named Max Weber said there were politicians who live for politics, and there are two kinds: those who live for policy and for making a difference, and that's their whole life. And then there's those who live off politics. It's just another career.
Agreed. And I think that probably transcends politics to these sort of organisations as well, governmental organisations. The people that have left that have caused a lot of these, or certainly contributed to a lot of these issues, I'm sure they're going to go away and find another high-paying executive job somewhere else and never look back. Meanwhile, we're still trying to pick up the pieces. So that is frustrating.
I have an acquaintance who works for a government, and he said that contracting out is very wasteful. You destroy institutional memory, and you actually spend more money contracting out than if you had the proper staff to do the work and to do the studies.
Oh, I've no doubt about that. I think we often hear again from some of the older fellas in the brigades that we used to do a lot of departmental work ourselves. You know, some of the mechanical work and maintaining the equipment and other bits and pieces. And that's that's all outsourced now, and it does make it can be frustrating when we need to get simple jobs fixed. And they have to send stuff away. And
I'm surprised at that because, I mean, you have to spend a lot of your time in training. I mean, you need to be there, and there's a fire or an accident. But if you were doing some of the repair work, why, it'd be using your time.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'd be doing good for yourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's right. So, no, it's a difficult one. And then, of course, at the national headquarters level, I mean, they are constantly using consultants. I haven't got the numbers in front of me now, but they are available. We've put in multiple OIAs about it, but the consultants that they've been using there, I mean, that's just millions and millions of dollars there. That's quite difficult to understand. But a lot of the jobs within that part of the organisation are temporary. They're on fixed term contracts, which again, I mean, that can't be breeding a great deal of loyalty to the organisation with people that know they're only there for a year or 2 years at a time.
Well, I suspect that contracting out's harmful to institutions.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Would you talk about the petition that you got out? I went online and saw you had a...
Yeah, great. Oh, good. Did you sign it?
I will sign it when I get back.
Depending on what I say. Yeah, look,
true.
it's so as I said, we're just coming to the end of the fleet inquiry. So that was something that was along with work that the union had done at various politicians, including Tim Costley. He was one of the he's a national MP. He's pursued this again. This is sort of an accountability thing. He repeatedly asked questions about the fleet. He was given different answers on, I think, 5 different occasions, and he said, "Look, this is enough. We need to get to the bottom of this." So they instigated an inquiry into the management of fleet, or the mismanagement of fleet, I should say. Well, that's coming to its conclusion. But during that time, a few doors have been opened that make it pretty clear that there's actually a wider issue within Fire and Emergency New Zealand that, as we talked about earlier, where the operating budget, where it's going, and why the service is effectively getting worse while the cost has gone up exponentially. So the NZPFU have got a petition now. We're trying to get 50,000 signatures so that we can instigate a general inquiry into the management of Fire and Emergency New Zealand. So we're very nearly there. So any of your listeners, I encourage you to go and take a look at our website. We've got direemergency.nz, and on there there's a link to the petition. It really is a bipartisan thing. It doesn't matter your political affiliation, but we all deserve a proper fire service, and this is one way that we can try and get that.
Is New Zealand prepared for increase in bushfires and so on that may happen within the near future with climate change and dry seasons?
I think a lot of work is being done. We do have a lot of, again, I'm not supposed to call them rural firefighters, but firefighters that specialise in rural firefighting. There is a lot of work going into them. I think since the amalgamation, there's been a lot of money put into there as well, increasing their resourcing, better trucks. I mean, there were a lot of these small rural brigades were literally working out of sheds. So that did need to happen. So I think there's been a lot of investment in it. Are we prepared? I mean, it depends how bad it gets, I suppose. Yeah, each year the wildfire season seems to start a little bit earlier. Although last year we had a bit of a reprieve, but and then of course it's not just for New Zealand. We support firefighters around the world by sending task forces around to help them during their fire seasons as well, over to Australia and to Canada as well. So it's important that we maintain that capability so that when we get into trouble over here, we also end up getting reciprocal help from other countries too.
Do you think the way we define efficiency should be changed? I mean, because often when we think about efficiency, we think of cost cutting and cutting staff. And you could think of efficiency as what kind of job we're doing and how well we're doing it and how well the equipment and so on fits the job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many different ways of looking at efficiency, isn't it? And I think you're right. I think the lazy, I think, and I think we've sort of touched on this earlier as well, was the lazy, the easy, the low hanging fruit is to slash jobs, is to cut budget and reduce capability. But I think again, if we were spending the money more wisely, we were looking at best practice from overseas instead of trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. I think, and again, I'm talking specifically about fire and emergency here, but I think we could dramatically increase our efficiency, and I think we're cutting it in the wrong places, and there's a limit to how much you can cut that before it causes problems. And I think we're at it. I think we're pretty close to the bone already, and I think there's active efforts to reduce firefighter numbers now around the country, reduce capability, and I think that's the wrong kind of efficiency, I think. So yeah, to your question, I think you're right. I think it can be defined differently.
I was thinking of the other public institutions that have suffered recently in the last 20 years or so, and that's the health service. And I think they've found they've cut so much that it's hard to attract people into the service.
Oh, absolutely.
If you make conditions difficult, you can go somewhere else and get better conditions.
Absolutely.
So there's a point with your cuts and so on where it's hard to go back. It's hard to attract people and get the people you need and train them and so on. Some jobs need quite a bit of training, not just, I'm thinking not only of firemen, but particularly the health service.
Absolutely. I think there seems to be a dirty word, decent pay. Because we're working because we're working in an industry that helps other people, we should be doing it for nothing. But I mean, it seems odd that we're happy to pay people in large corporations large wages and nobody blinks an eye. But if a firefighter asks for a pay rise, it's like, how dare you? You should be doing this for nothing.
Yeah, I think. I mean, MPs get well paid, and they've got a system set up so the people that decide on the pay look at the pay of corporate elites, of business elites, and they pay their MPs and cabinet on similar lines.
Yeah, well, that's quite topical at the moment. Yesterday, we just received an email telling us, so our chief executive, he's on over $500,000 a year. He earns more than the prime minister. They've just released yesterday in their annual remuneration review that they're all to receive a 2.5% pay rise this year. That's for non-NZPFU members, obviously, and that's for our management level employees.
That doesn't encourage you. That doesn't encourage me to want to pay taxes.
And that's what I'm talking about. There's no money to pay the firefighters, but we've got plenty to look after the chief executive when he's already earning $500,000 a year. Yeah, at the very least, it seems pretty tone deaf at the moment when the entire narrative is that we've got to save money. We haven't got the money. There is no money, and yet we can lift these we can lift the pay of these folks the way they've done. So that has caused some consternation, shall we say, among the troops over the last 24 hours or so.
What kind of training do you do when you're not called to an accident or a fire?
Yeah, well, I mean, as many different types of responses as we're expected to attend, as all of the different types of training that we can do. I mean, that goes right from practicing cutting cars to practicing safe entry into house fires, search and rescue techniques, right down to practicing tying knots. We regularly drive around our various patches to make sure we're aware of new buildings or old buildings or that sort of thing. Going over our equipment, we do that regularly, not just to check the equipment, but to maintain familiarity. We do confined space training, lines training. I mean, the list goes on. Last night we were going over hazardous materials training. That's something that we probably, as an organisation, need to be better at. But we have the legal mandate to look after hazardous material stuff in this country. So it's something we do need to step up and improve on. So, yeah, honestly, the list's endless. Yeah. And I think, with especially, and we go back to live fire training, when crews were getting 3 or 4 or 5 or more house fires in a week, your training sort of came on the job, really. You were sort of learning as you were doing. But as we're not getting as many house fires now, it's so much more important to get training in proper facilities to practice our skills there, because we just can't train on the job anymore.
Do you have to do with fire prevention? Is that part of your work?
Yeah, to some extent. So that can take multiple forms. So we've got a fire prevention team that are non-operational, that look after that area, but then they can delegate to us. And we've also got a fire safety team that are operational, so that are firefighters as well. I'm one of the crew. We've got a guy that looks after our team in Dunedin. And so he organises people to attend events, sometimes at the university, for example, just to give out fire safety advice. And then at a crew level, we often go and do what we call home fire safety visits. So we'll take the whole truck, because we all got to go together wherever we go. So we take the truck and we take the crew, and we all pop in and say hello to the members of the public, and pop into their house. We'll have a look around and make sure they've got working smoke alarms. We can install working smoke alarms. We can install smoke alarms. We can actually provide them to people if they haven't got their own as well, to make sure they meet the minimum safety requirements. So again, I encourage you listeners, if you know anyone who you think might not have the right protection, make sure you get in touch with your local fire station, and we can pop round free of charge, and we'll have a quick chat with you and make sure you're all up to speed. So yeah, we do that sort of thing. We do that sort of thing regularly. Yeah.
Do many people know that goes on? Is it pretty well aware? I think I knew it happened, but.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure actually. I guess you don't really see. I guess you don't really see so much in the way of advertising for that specific role. But I think what tends to happen is that at some of the events that the fire safety team will attend, they might have a stall or a stand or something, and people will come up and speak to them, and then they'll organise for us to give them a call and arrange an appointment like that. But yeah, as far as nationally go, I'm not sure what the awareness is actually. I hope it's out there. Perhaps this show here will help us get the message out just a little bit further.
Do the paid fire staff, do you send people around to the rural areas to help with training?
Yes. Yep, different people can be different people train others in different areas. So some people specialize in areas. I'm getting involved with helping train the qualified firefighter level up in Rotorua, the volunteers. We've got other people that help train the driver training or the pump operator training, and they can go. They're sort of national trainers, so they can go all over the place doing that. So we are regularly used to help with training for volunteers. Yeah, but we also have people that only do training, that are non-operational, and they only provide training to our volunteer brigades as well. So there's a bit of a mix there, but yeah, we definitely help the volunteers.
How do they get their training? I mean, it must be very specialized to train people in a sense.
Yeah, so the process is along the lines of, so you'll get involved with the training to start with, sort of as a spectator, I guess. Then you'll start helping out on the second time around, and then on the third time around, you may start getting assessed to see whether you're in a position to start delivering it, and that training will sort of be ongoing, and then you'll get signed off on different scopes, so it's different specialist skills, I suppose, and then you start building up your portfolio, I guess, and then and I guess So training's another thing that it really needs a bit of an overhaul. The people that are involved in it working really hard to do the best that they can with what they got. But once again, there's a lot of gaps. Policy makes it difficult, and obviously budget. But it's something that it really is a non-negotiable. We can't do our job without training, and we've got to make sure
things are always changing. You get new ways of building houses and particularly buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we touched on that earlier, didn't we? That the construction methods are really changing how firefighting should be taking place. Yeah.
What kind of shifts do you work generally in the paid service?
So our shift pattern is on an 8-day roster. So at a minimum, we will do 2 10-hour day shifts, followed by 2 14-hour night shifts, and then you'd have 4 days off. So that's the minimum shift pattern. Although more often than not, we do overtime in amongst there as well. And depending on levels of sickness or injury, or people doing training or other things, we can often do many more hours than that. So actually, I was just working out earlier on. So over the last fortnight, up until tomorrow, I'll have done just over 150 hours in 2 weeks.
I get the impression that firefighters and miners have a good deal of solidarity with each other.
With what? Sorry, miners?
Miners and firefighters, people like that work as a team in some danger sometimes.
With their colleagues, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Look, honestly, I don't think I mentioned this earlier on. I think one of the most satisfying parts of the job is the colleagues that we work with. You know, it's if they become your second family. Actually, if you end up doing a lot of overtime, they almost become your first family, as my wife will tell you. But we sort of live with each other. We cook and talk and sometimes argue. I mean, it's a pretty intense relationship with your colleagues here. And when it comes down to it, you've got each other's life in your hand. So that trust has to be absolute. Yeah.
Did it disturb you that when you heard that the government was, after Pike River, they increased safety quite a bit in forestry and mining and other, that they're rescinding those rules now?
Yeah, absolutely.
How's that feel?
Well, I mean, it just seems like madness. We just seem to have such a short memory, I think, collectively, just such a short memory. And I think, I mean, for the families of those, for the victims of the Pike River, it must be a real kick in the guts. I mean, I can't imagine how they feel after all of the work that they put in.
I mean, Actually, it's not only bad policy, I think it's bad economics as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have failure, it costs the country a lot in many different ways.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Sort of financially and reputationally, I think. It's. I think you're right. Yeah. It's just so skewed.
And you lose trust, I think, if you do things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. As I say, with our situation with the training, that seems to me to be such a massive health and safety gap. It's just hard to believe. And I think sometimes sometimes it sort of takes something to go seriously wrong before anything's taken seriously. It's all hypothetical until it happens, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's human beings that pay the price.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And then we go back to the accountability thing again, don't we? And whether or not anyone actually gets held accountable.
Yeah. What are your hopes for the future?
It'd be nice if we got this contract squared away. It'd be nice to see the end of this particular round of negotiations. As I say, we're 2 years out of contract. The contracts normally last for 3 years, so in another year we'll be out of the second contract. So we need to get this wrapped up. I think it's wearing down our crews. The morale, the morale's taken a hit. The relationship with senior management has taken a huge hit, and I think we'll be rebuilding trust for many years to come after this round. So in the first instance, I'd like to get this squared away, and our union national committee are working extremely hard to get that done. I know that much. Longer term, I think I'd like to see people in positions of authority within our organisation representing the front line instead of fighting with the front line. And I think we could probably say that across other organisations too. It would be nice for once if our leaders were looking up at government saying, no, actually, we won't accept that, cut. Our firefighters deserve better or need better to provide for the communities. And I think if we had stronger leaders instead of weak managers, I think all of these organisations that we've discussed today would be in a much better position. So I think that there would be a good start. What about you, Marvin?
Well, I would agree with you. I'd hope for governments that really are concerned with the common good. That would be their main source of why they worked and why they went into politics. And they wouldn't forget that. Well, thanks a lot for talking to us. And we've been talking with Mike Taylor, the Secretary of the Dunedin Firefighters Union, and a professional firefighter. And when you need him or her, you need them. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Marvin. Thank you.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.